It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, he was named American League Manager of the Year 2011 by the Baseball Writers Association of America. The second time he's my guest on The Sam Lesante Show. Thanks for joining us, along with Joe Maddon, who I'm honored to have on the show, is Bob Curry. We'll tell you what Bob's function is. Great things happening in the city of Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Coach, it's always a manager. It's always nice to have you on the Sam Lesante Show.
Thank you for having us back here again.
You
appreciate
see,
it.
you listened to me on what to do, and you became
Fish
the
oil, baby, fish oil. I'm telling you, I'm thinking more clearly. My skin looks better. My knees don't hurt. It's outstanding.
Stop sending me the residuals. Okay?
You got it. I'll stop the checks immediately.
Stop the checks immediately. Joe, first of all, congratulations. Okay, it's a nice honor to a person that certainly deserves it. As long as a lot of other managers in the league, they work hard. But what do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, it's quite an honor to receive this award this year. It's the second time in 4 years, and it's really kind of a phenomenal thought. This year, our team, for those that are really big baseball fans, realize and know that at the beginning of the season we had lost a lot of good players, and our guys fought back through probably one of the most untypical Septembers ever. It was, and to win the wild card nomination on the last day of the season with a Evan Longoria home run down the left field line at Tropicana Field. So, for a lot of different reasons, there were so many good things that happened this year, culminated by this award. But I also want to mention this. When a manager receives an award like this, it's not just an individual award, it really speaks to the organization. We have wonderful ownership, great leadership in our front office. My coaching staff, I believe, is the best in all of baseball. And furthermore, I have a bunch of baseball players. We have a bunch of baseball players that play the game properly. They care. Their heart's in the right spot. You could root for the Rays. I'm telling you, our guys are really good. And the other part about that is they're still very young. So as this thing moves forward, I feel very fortunate to be the steward of this group.
Well, once again, looking on the website, a lot of complimentary kudos came in from all over the state. Joining me on the show today, folks, is Bob Curry. And Bob Curry is coordinator of a great project that's happening in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, but something that can become contagious throughout the United States. And wait till you hear about this, folks. It's something I think is desperately needed. Joe is the author of this. Bob, thanks for coming on the Sam Lesante Show.
We're just thrilled to be here, Sam. We really are.
Okay, let's talk about not baseball, but something that I think is so very critical in the country today, particularly with our youth who are becoming more of this in the social media, where they're playing the games and they're not getting involved as much as they should. Okay, this is something, Joe. Okay, why don't you tell the audience just exactly what we're talking about, what we're kicking.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about what I have thought, and then let Bob fill you in on the actual mechanics of what we're doing. Last year when I came back home, quite frankly, I was a little disappointed. I thought the city was a little dark, and there wasn't a lot of things going on. One of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that I felt that there's a little bit of a fear and trepidation between our Hispanic brothers and sisters and our regular community here that has been here forever, and which I'm a part of. So when I left last year, flying home on the plane, I was talking to my wife, Jay, and I said, I really want to start to try to do something to help kind of ameliorate the situation, really get people pulling from the same end of the rope. And so I thought of a bunch of different things, called my cousin Elaine, and we talked about this particular project that Bob's going to describe to you in a minute. The whole point was to open up lines of communication, to build relationships, to establish trust. And at that point, when you do those things, then eventually we can have an even flow of thoughts and constructive criticism and ideas going back and forth. So my role here is primarily to do that. It's not to make any political statements. That's not what I'm about. What I want to try to do here is exactly what we did with the Tampa Bay Rays several years ago. And that's just what I talked about, to build relationships. And from that springs a lot of good stuff. When people come together on ideas, it becomes very powerful. And there's a lot of power in the beginning of any project or situation or organization. So that's what I see my role in, is hopefully being a facilitator, trying to bring this together. And then guys like Bob, my cousin Elaine, my wife Jay, my sister Carmine, and this entire group that Bob's going to begin to describe. These are the ones that really have the brains behind the actual manipulation and mechanics of this situation. But that was my vision. I'm so proud to be from this hometown. Growing up here as a kid, there was not a better place in the United States to grow up, and you know that, and I know that. I know that's not the case right now, but there's no reason why we can't bring this back relatively quick. And with this project, what I want to do is obviously have us get back on our feet, moving in the right direction very quickly. But beyond that, I'm hoping that we can set an example for other communities in the northeastern Pennsylvania and possibly nationally at some point. I have really kind of grandiose thoughts and plans with this whole thing. But having said all that, it's got to start simply. It's got to be a simple plan, and you can't try to do too much too soon. So that's the vision that I kind of created last year at the conclusion of my visit here. In a nutshell, I could go on with this for about another hour or so, but I want to see our hometown back on its feet. This was and will be, again, the best place to raise kids. I firmly believe that. I wasn't just raised by Beanie and Howard. I was raised by an entire community here, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Well, the exciting thing about this, Joe, is I think the mayor of Hazleton is on board 100% with this. But as people are watching this in Philadelphia and Allentown, and we show the show, this could be something. It could be a model, okay, that it could expand. So, Bob, being the coordinator of this called HIP, which is Hazleton Integrated Project, okay, and you could make any name. It could be Reading Integrated Project, it could be Allentown Integrated Project, it could be any name. But talking about what is the whole concept of this particular project?
Well, the first thing I want to mention is somebody of Joe's stature, what he brings to the table as far as this goes. There's a lot of celebrities out there that talk about and they give lip service to their hometown, but Joe truly loves this community. It shows when he speaks about the community and well beyond. Every time he talks to national media, he talks so fondly about our community, and he means it. Now, when some celebrity will say something like, oh, it's a wonderful community to grow up in, and I've got these great ideas, and we really want to make a difference, and then they get on a plane and they fly away. Joe never flew away. What we have done is, since he left here in January, point by point, step by step, we have laid the groundwork for this project. And the kinds of things that we've settled on are going to come to fruition this December. We're having a press conference on December 15th. We have a fundraiser, which is really going to be exciting. It will be unique, not only unique to this area, it might be unique nationally in the kinds of things we're going to be able to do. That fundraiser will be held at Lobitz's on December 16th. On December 17th, we're showing a movie. It's Joe's favorite movie. It's a movie that has no name, that Jimmy Stewart stars in, and it's just about living your life. So if any of you guys have any idea what that movie might be called, but for copyright reasons, we cannot name it. However, we will be showing the movie in English and Spanish subtitles, just another way to welcome the community. And then, of course, we move from that into the next day with the fundraiser. The money we raise from the fundraiser, part of the money will go to Joe's Thanksmas program, which he has started in the Tampa area and has grown from there. So Joe probably wants to speak to that himself.
I'm going to hold that thought. Folks, I'm talking to Joe Maddon, of course, from Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Very proud to be from Hazleton, Pennsylvania. It reminds me, Joe, of Jack Palance. No matter where Jack went, he's my partner for 32 years. And projects we did, no matter where we went in throughout the United States, Jack was always proud and always spoke about his hometown, Latimer and Partysville. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying with us, folks. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Folks in the greater Hazleton area, I want to thank all of those people who responded to our surveys in greater Hazleton. We have well over 60,000 people watching Local News 13, as well as being the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. I sincerely say thank you for that. SSPTV.com, folks, 24/7. We appreciate it and welcome our friends in the Philadelphia area. And also in the Allentown area. We appreciate you tuning us in. My guest, Joe Maddon, who is the American League Manager of the Year, as the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, fabulous team, along with Bob Curry. Bob is the coordinator of something that's very interesting happening in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. It's called Hazleton One Community Center, and we're talking about bringing people together. Joe, you know, there's an interesting comment that I pulled out. It says, Joe Maddon keeps his team focused on the task at hand. He doesn't let them get too high when they're playing well or too low when they're slumping. I'm always concerned when I'm speaking to college students or I'm asked to speak different places across the country. I always like to talk about the substance of people, okay? And I think, you know, with this project that you're doing, trying to bring the Hispanic community together, et cetera, let's talk about substance, Joe, and people who we are as a community.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's another part of how this all began. We just talked about it in the break here. Last year when I came back home, I went to the daycare center, New Yorker's Daycare Center. And I walk into this place on a Sunday afternoon, Jay and I do, and there's a bunch of grown-ups sitting at a lower table with kids, a kids' table with the lower seats, having a potluck dinner, or like a lunchtime or a dinner. And the kids are running around the house having a blast. At that particular moment, I thought to myself, it's exactly like the Madden family used to be back in the 50s and the 60s. There's no difference whatsoever. And I'm seeing these hardworking, wonderful parents who, yes, maybe some don't speak great English yet, but their vision is for a better life for their kids and for themselves, but it's primarily about their kids. The substance being, you got to look beyond all the superficial stuff. Okay, maybe somebody doesn't speak English that well. Maybe somebody eats something a little bit differently than you're normally used to eating. Maybe the color of their skin might look a little bit different. This is all superficial stuff. The substance is they're not even partially, they're exactly like we are, and how our parents was, how our grandparents were many, many years. There is no difference. That's what everybody's got to come to grips with and understand. We're going to get this unique opportunity here now to see exactly what it looked like 50, 60, 70 years ago when your grandparents came, yours, mine, came into this city and were met with a lot of opposition. They were met with a lot of opposition. There was a lot of built-ins that they had to overcome to get to the point where you could sit at that desk, I could sit in this chair, and Bob can sit right there comfortably, and having been given a chance to achieve awards, have television shows, retire from Barnes & Noble at the head of the class. So, I mean, honestly, that's what I want the people here to understand. We need to give these folks a chance, and furthermore, our hometown is not going to prosper without the help of this group of energetic, young, family-oriented, traditional people. We need to give them a chance to become integrated within our city, and as we do, I promise you, these are wonderful people. They're very caring. They're warm. Some of my best friends are from Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, South America, and Venezuela, et cetera. So for all these different reasons, we got to look beyond all this superficial crap, quite frankly. It's about substance, and these people are no different than we are.
And Bob,
if I may just jump
yes,
in there
please.
as well, I think the message is that the differences between us and this new influx of immigrants, the Hispanic population, is very small. Our similarities are so much greater than our differences, and the projects that we're looking at putting together are going to allow people, as Joe likes to say, to rub elbows, to bump into each other, build that communication, make people understand just how much we are alike and just how similar this is to the period of time that we're talking about. You know, we've forgotten our own history to some degree, and what we're trying to do is recreate it in a better way right now. We're saying things like our grandparents, and you mentioned this in the break, our grandparents, my grandfather's name was Boyano, and he spoke very little English. His entire life, he lived in this community, spoke very little, broken English right from the start. And if we can provide people with some means, some vehicle through which we can make their lives a little easier, we're not just talking about the Hispanics' lives, because when we lift the boat for every single group of people in our community. This is a true community effort. The community center will give us opportunities to meet, exchange ideas, and cultural exchange, play athletics together, and really start to build something that we can all be proud of in our community.
When I was a child, my father had the trucking business, and I never saw a black person. Okay, and he was working in the Philadelphia Bulletin paper with his trucks, and I'm like about 8 years old or 9 years old. All right, and he took me there, and he had black people, African Americans, working for him. Right, and I got out of the car, and I was petrified. I was so scared.
Sure.
Because then when I got to meet these three people, you know, I didn't see color at all. I saw people that were just, they had their families, I would play with their kids, and, we erased the prejudice because it's all this perception. And I think communities are that way. My grandfather spoke broken English and he had to learn, etc. Yes, I know we have some problems in the cities, okay? And I think even the Hispanic, the Latino people, are just like we were upset with the bad people that represented our nationalities.
Absolutely.
Okay, the mafia and all the stuff. Okay, we didn't want that stuff. They don't want it either. How do you see this, Bob, as far as people watching the show? Okay, and I'm going to encourage them to, if you're out of town, especially come to that one fundraiser that we'll talk about after the break. But how do you see this in perspective with just working with human beings and getting rid of that prejudice?
Well, I think your own story tells the tale perfectly well. What happens is you have a group of people who fear the unknown. It's not unique to us. It's not unique to our society or to Hazleton. But when we have an influx as large and as rapid as we've had with the Hispanic population, there's bound to be tensions. And those tensions come to a head when you see a small group of bad apples who grab all the headlines. But what we know from our own experience, and particularly with Elaine, her work with concerned parents, and the great work that she's done, is by far and away, most of these people are just good people who have wonderful families. They're very religious people. They're people who care about community, and they came here for the exact same reasons. They want a better life for their children. They want better education. They want to grow up, and what they really want is to live the American dream that you and Joe, and fortunately for all of us, we have been able to live. That's what they want. That's why I stress so much that the similarities are so great, the differences are so small.
Folks, if you just tuned in, we're talking about this great project that's happening in Hazleton One Community Center with Joe Maddon and Bob Curry. Now, I'm going to give you emails here that you can get in touch with Bob. It's Bobby Curry, B-O-B-B-Y Curry, C-U-R-R-Y, at hotmail.com. I think Joe Maddon likes that name. Now, here's another website I want you to go to, Joe's Thanksmas. Joe's Thanksmas.com.
It's not Joey's Thanksmas, it's Joe's Thanksmas.
Joe's, J-O-E-S.
Yeah, I was just referencing Bobby Curry.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Joe's Thanksmas.com. We'll talk about that when we come back after the break. And folks, here's another question, okay? I know every time sometimes a celebrity does something or someone gets involved in the community, it's always like, well, what's in it for him? We come back, we're going to talk about it, what's in it for him, after the break. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Some great things happening in the city of Hazleton. My guest, Joe Maddon, no stranger to all you baseball fans, manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, and Bob Curry, who is promoting a tremendous project in Hazleton. Joe, let's talk about that project in case people are just tuning in. Sorry, Bob, the project.
Okay, what we are trying to do is we have a series of events that are coming up in December that are guaranteed to raise awareness for the focus that we're trying to put on the communication within our community. We're trying to build communication. We are going to have a series of events which is 4 days long. On the 15th, we have a press conference with Joe, and representatives from the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation will also be there. We believe it's going to be Billy Ripken himself will be here. They have formed a great partnership which we are thrilled to be involved with. The 16th, we have a fundraiser which Joe is going to speak to in a minute. On December 16th, or the 17th, we have a movie, which is the movie with no name, but it does have James Stewart in it, and it is about living a really good life, I believe, something like that.
Potterville are involved in this stuff.
The concept, though, again, of the reason is putting this is so people working together as one community, okay?
Exactly right.
And we're hoping that, once this gets off the ground, it could become a model for many cities throughout the United States.
Exactly.
Okay?
What we're looking to do, basically, is find a suitable location to put a community center right in the middle of the city of Hazleton. And that's what we're all working towards. That's what our fundraisers are based towards as well. And we've had a terrific response, I got to say, I think well beyond anything we could have imagined.
Yeah.
But I can say this, that no question about it, the people of this city are ready. Enough already with the bitterness, the distrust. We're really headed in the right direction.
Very quickly, before we get into that exciting December. Now, folks, December 16, you got to mark it down. It's Friday, December 16. We'll talk. JoesThanksmas.com. What's that about?
Thanksmas is going to occur on the last day here briefly, It's a project that began in Tampa Bay several years ago. The focus is on the homeless in the Tampa Bay area. We cook a traditional spaghetti meatball, sausage, and pierogi. I want to include my Polak heritage also. Dinner at the various Salvation Armies from Tampa to St. Pete to Bradenton we've been to Port Charlotte, down to Fort Myers, and like I said last night, I wanted to infiltrate Red Sox territory, so we went all the way down to Fort Myers where the Red Sox have spring training. We got our tentacles down there also. My concern, again, briefly, when I was in California with the Angels, I used to ride my bike along the California coast and see oftentimes these men and women pushing their life in a shopping cart. Always upset me. So I thought if I ever had a larger soapbox to stand on, I would utilize it. Thus, that's what it's about, to bring awareness to the homeless, to help the homeless, to hopefully give them some self-esteem, promote their self-esteem, and educate. I mean, most people don't even understand or realize who is homeless and why. It's not a male that wants to stand on a street corner and is lazy. That's not the point. Particularly last year in the Tampa Bay area, a lot of the homeless problem was because two-income families lost a job, and now it's down to one income, and all of a sudden they can't afford the house, et cetera, and now you become homeless. Very scary situation, very scary thought, but for the grace of God, there we go ourselves.
Do you gain anything financially from this?
No, of course not. No,
this is all volunteer time.
No, Jay and I, we buy the food. We buy the food for all this, and then we prepare. We go to the Tropicana field, and all the folks from the front office come down. We rolled over, I don't know, 2,000 meatballs last year.
Are they good though, Joe?
They're outstanding.
Okay, Joe, the fundraiser, December 16th. Let's talk about what's going to happen that night so people could get there.
December 16th at Lobitz's. We're going to go down there, same kind of a gig, the same kind of a meal. The Lobitz's is going to put it together. We're having a bunch of memorabilia. As an example, jerseys from Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, CeCe Sabathia, Evan Longoria, David Price, Josh Hamilton. They'll be there with the reserve bid on these particular items in an attempt to raise money for our center. Beyond that, we're going to have bats from, Ichiro's, and there's an Ichiro jersey there too, bats from Vladimir. Vlad signed us a bat. Jimmy Tomei signed us a bat. We've got a bunch of really good baseball bats, baseballs, Verlander, Felix Hernandez. And then we have this one thing called mystery ball, where you have a chance to pull a baseball out of a rowboat, actually, and you pay $50 for it. And this ball could be anybody from Robinson Cano to Jeff Mathis. The group that, for the real fans, again, the group that just went to Taiwan, I bought 30 dozen baseballs and had them sign it. Now, these balls are going to be a part of mystery ball. So it's going to be all this memorabilia, and then on top of that, we have some very special guests. Don Zimmer is going to be there. Coach Zimmerman, as I like to refer to him, will be there. And I talked to him yesterday, and he's gotten in touch with a guy that everybody around here may know. He's turned out to be a very good friend of mine, and he's agreed to come, and I have to call him later today, and that's Mr. Yogi Berra. So Yogi's going to be at this event also.
Wow.
Beyond that, I'm working on some other really more meaningless celebrities compared to these two guys.
Yeah, but you didn't talk about the Sam Lesante Cup.
No, Sammy's cup will be on my desk next year at the Trops when you're watching those post-game interviews. It'll be there.
That's fabulous. So, folks, for those of you in the greater Hazleton area, know exactly where to go. But for those of you who are watching throughout the state of Pennsylvania, Bobby Curry at hotmail.com, okay, B-O-B-B-Y, Curry, C-U-R-R-Y, at hotmail.com. You get all the information you need. And also go to joesthanksmas.com. That's quite interesting. Joe, congratulations. Thank you for all the good work you're doing. Bob, thanks for coming on the show. I could only applaud you. I know Mayor Iannuzzi is 100% solid. He's excited about this. He told me that whatever he needs to do, and the surrounding community is also supporting this big time. And we hope this can only become contagious to many other communities throughout the country, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Good luck to you next year.
Thank you for having us back.
And need any help, give me a call.
I shall.
Okay.
Thanks, Sammy.
I just need the address for the Omegas.
I'll give it.
Okay.
You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Don't forget 24/7 SSPTV.com. And thank you so much, folks, for making us #1 in the greater Hazleton area. Appreciate that very much. We'll see you next time.